Okay. The first thing before we get into the actual topic for the day, I think is important because we're still, many of you starting off your day. It's one of the first activities that you're doing, or maybe in the middle of you've completed an activity or stopped an activity to join us. And I thought it would be great just to get grounded. It's an opportunity to be more present. And being more present always helps information and bring more clarity and bring a little bit more intention to the conversation we're going to have. The way we're going to do that, I call it a minute of mindfulness. In this minute of mindfulness, I'd like for you to do is just to invite you to take a few deep breaths in. When I say deep breaths, is go as deep as you can, just release it. Let's go for 3. 3 seems to be the magic number. So 3 deep breaths. And as you're doing that, the grounding really begins when you start to become more aware of any area of your body that has tension. So continue to breathe as deep as you can. And I choose breathing because it's really the most essential part of our humanity. We can manage our breath, right, because we're being more conscious of it. But at the same time, this doesn't distract you from whatever it is you may be doing. If you're driving, or if you're, in some cases, some of us might be multitasking, or you might be in public, and it might be awkward to do anything else. But breathing is something that can be done relatively, it can be private, and at the same time, really highly beneficial. So as you're breathing, I want you to think about, we'll start from your head. Think about any area in your head, maybe your forehead, sometimes our jaw, or sometimes our neck gets tight, right? That's what some of us may hold some tension. So as you breathe into it, anytime you exhale, I want you to focus on relaxing any area of your head that might be holding some tension. And allow all of the tension to just drop down. In this case, we'll drop down to our shoulders now. Your shoulders are tense. Even if you're driving, or even if you're sitting at a desk, allow your shoulders to unclench, right? Whether that's in the back or on top, what you want to do is just let your shoulders drop, relax. We're going to keep moving down to our arms. Same thing, if there's any part of your arms, or in this case now, your upper body, your chest, your back, down to your entire torso. See if you can get the tension out. And just ground yourself wherever you are. So if you're standing, you should feel a little bit more connected to your hips in this case. If you're sitting, you might be more relaxed against the back of your chair, or you might be sitting up straighter if you don't have the back of your chair. Now continue moving downwards, and you're going to continue to ground from your legs, right? From your hips, let's go to our knees. Continue to breathe. Again, just releasing any tension that you see there. Finding a more comfortable position in some cases, settling in, settling back, or forward, whichever the case may be. And then moving down from your knees to your feet. Again, releasing any tension. You have your legs crossed and you're sitting in a safe spot, feel free to put both of your feet on the ground. And the idea is to let the tension start to dissipate from your head to your toes. And I focus on tension because usually tension indicates there's something that's a disturbance, or something that's perhaps not going to get in. When you have any place that's tight, it's really difficult and challenging to allow anything in. So this is an opportunity just to open up a little bit. As we prepare our minds, our bodies usually do a good job in letting us know if our minds are ready or not. All right, final deep breath. Obviously, continue to breathe throughout the session. You should not stop breathing for this. Don't hold your breath, but definitely be with your breath and see if there's any tension throughout. That could be an indicator about something that might be resonating with you, or something that might be even triggering you. So as we talk today, just pay attention to where the tightness creeps back in. You might find that to be really interesting. I really spent some time thinking about this after the session last week. We've been talking about goal setting because this is the time of year where there's a lot of opportunity to look at what we've accomplished, what we've not accomplished yet, or more importantly, what we're thinking about for the coming year. Think about the coming year. And it reminded me of a workshop that I attended many years ago. It was a Dale Carnegie high impact presentation workshop. And I remember they did something pretty extraordinary. I hadn't seen this before, and I've taken a lot of communication, a lot of public speaking workshops in the past. And this particular one, before we even did a speech, they asked us to write down 3 words that we would like to hear our audience use to describe our speech. And those 3 words, in my case, were fun. I thought fun would be an important word for me, educational, and also relevant. And when I thought of those 3 words, I realized that the speech that I was going to give, because throughout the workshop we worked on exactly what the speech might look like. We came up with the subject matter and an introduction for it. And I went up to the front, in front of the group, to give my speech. They videotaped us. That was part of the class. And I did my speech. And then afterwards, I went to a separate room with one of the coaches from the session. And the coach sat with me, and we watched the playback of the speech. And the coach would ask me, well, Valerie, do you see where you might be having fun in this speech, or where you might be bringing fun to the class or to the session? And I pointed out, oh yeah, when I did this or when I said that. And he said, okay, what about educational? You mentioned that was important to you. So where in this speech would they say that you're being educational? And I said, oh, when I shared this information, I want to share that fact. And then finally he said, what about relevant? And I said, oh yeah, when I use these words because it was tied to something that someone said earlier, or I gave examples that were connected to the roles that those individuals played in the organization. And what was really fascinating was how easily, and I say easily, I should say how simply, let me go with simply, because it's not always easy, especially if it's not conscious, but how simply we were able to tie my tone of voice, my body language, even the vocabulary I used to those 3 words. Once I knew those 3 words, when I was aware of who I wanted to be in front of the room and what experience I wanted to give the audience, all of a sudden how I communicated it was impacted. So here's a question for you all. If a camera crew followed you for a full day and recorded your every moment, and then let's say at the end of the day you got your playback, would the person that you're seeing on the screen, would they be doing and saying the things that aligned with the intention that you had at the beginning of the day? It seems like kind of an odd question to ask, because it's not like somebody wakes you up in the morning and says, hey, who are you going to be today? Some of us might have that, some of us don't. But the reason I bring it up is because I think this is an opportunity to look at creating goals, whether they're goals for the day, goals for the week, for the month, with a slightly different intention, right? And that being really thinking about who we want to be. Most of us learn goal setting, especially in a business setting. We learn goals, wildly important goals. We learn SMART goals, right? The specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely goals. I even heard there's dumb goals. So there's SMART goals and there's dumb goals. I am not making this up. And the dumb goals are actually dream-driven. It stands for dream-driven, uplifting, method-friendly, and behavior-driven. So you could be a WIG, you could be a SMART, you could be a dumb goal. But they're all goals nonetheless, and how we learn about them. The challenge is that at times the goals might sound something like get 3 new clients this month, or get promoted to director in a year, or it might be declutter and clean my garage and my closets by spring. Maybe lose 20 pounds by summer, right? These are the types of goals that might show up, whether in our work or life. And what I'm really pointing to, thinking about who we want to be in that intention is, will achieving those goals that we set for ourselves, will they make us a better version of ourselves? I know in some cases our organizations and our supervisors have a say in exactly what goals we should have. And this call is called It's Time to Come Alive, because I think that there's an opportunity for us to take some responsibility and some ownership about how we go about achieving the goals that we have in a way that really honors who we are and who we want to be in the world. So here's the invitation. If you think about connecting with new clients, will that help you become a better listener? Maybe you're more in tune with what your customers need and therefore can produce services and products that really address those needs. Or will decluttering your closet and your garage or losing 20 pounds, will that bring you more energy and vitality so you're able to spend more time with your children or to take on all the different activities that you've taken on? Will driving towards that promotion, will that now allow you to connect with other departments or divisions so that you better understand what they're doing and maybe gives you an opportunity to be more innovative, right? So when you think about words like innovative or listener or energetic and use those as the vision, then whatever you say you want to accomplish, whatever you say you want to do, born out of those words gives you so much range, so much range. And I think that's really what's missing. So I want to invite you all, as you're looking at what you've set for yourself in the future, let's think 2019 at this point. We're weeks away. You may have already set your goals, and if that's the case, great. You might want to look at it and see, who will I be when I accomplish these? Right? So if our goals are, hey, my goal is to find a new job, or my goal is to go on a certain trip. You've already written those down or you've declared them somehow. Now what you can do is think, well, by achieving that, who will I be? Right? What will I be able to accomplish? How will I feel, or who will I be by accomplishing those? It could be going on that trip, I will be organized. Or finding that new job, I will be assertive or driven. But here's the trick. It's not a trick, but here's the invitation. Take those words, driven, assertive, organized, and actually not to have them as an end product of having achieved your goals. Move those words to the beginning. So as you begin your year and you begin to take action in those goals, you are the driven person. You are the person that is energetic, right? You become that person as opposed to thinking about doing that, getting that result at the end. I was listening to Deepak Chopra, who's an author, is a speaker, the physician by trade, but he's very popular kind of in spiritual circles. And one of the things he said is, don't get attached to the outcome. This really resonated with me. He says, don't get attached to the outcome. Get attached to the process. I guarantee that when you start paying attention to the process that you're using to get to whatever that final accomplishment or outcome is, you'll start finding opportunities to bring those to life. And that's really the goal here. I'll give you, a personal example, and then I'll open the line so that you can start asking questions or interacting based on what we're talking about or something else. A quick example. So this is more personal than it is professional, but I thought it would really hit home. A few years ago, I went to a speed dating event. Now, for those of you that don't know, speed dating is an opportunity to meet multiple men in a very short period of time. So there's an event that's structured. All the women sat at distinct tables, And then one by one, men would come and sit at our table, and we would have between, let's say, 6 minutes or so, 6 to 8 minutes, to actually have a date, quote unquote, with that person, get to know them, ask questions, etc. And they had a list of recommended questions. Well, before the date, before the event started, I said to myself that there were 3 ways that I wanted to be in this event. One was connected, the second one was joyful, and the third one was adventuresome. You notice that the groups of 3 somehow seem to work really well for me. Well, those were the 3 intentions that I had. And it was fascinating because as each person came, I found myself making more jokes. I usually, I greeted them with a smile. And I was nervous. There were moments when I was like, how's this going to go? Especially against my first time, I didn't know what to expect. But I went in with this intention, and being joyful was making jokes or smiling, connected. I'd ask different types of questions. And adventuresome, don't get it, don't get the wrong idea, but adventuresome for me was really about really being bold and being vulnerable, like really sharing myself authentically rather than just trying to look good and be cute. And I remember at the end, I actually went with a friend of mine, and she was sitting at the adjacent table. And so we would see the same guys in the same order. At the end of the event, she came up to me and she said, "Hey, what did you think of Jason?" And I said, "Jason? Oh, this German Shepherd guy?" And she's like, "The German Shepherd guy? No, the guy, he was wearing the blue blazer. He said he worked in investing or accounting or something like that." And I was like, "Yeah, oh yeah, that's the German Shepherd guy." She's like, "Valerie, what are you talking about?" And I told her, well, he was sharing with me how this weekend he just got a German Shepherd. And that had been his dream ever since he was a child. He used to have a picture of a German Shepherd. He'd never had one in his whole life, but somehow he knew that that was the type of dog he wanted. And he just got one this past weekend, and he was really lit up about it. He was talking about what he was going to do with the dog. And so we talked about dogs and why I also love German Shepherds. And we had such an awesome conversation because of that. And her, needless to say, her conversation with him wasn't quite so alive, let's say. It wasn't as interesting. But I found that those moments when I've been really conscious about who I want to be and really create the environment for me to do those things, it determines what I say, it determines my body language and how I behave, it determines even the words that I use. So that's really the demonstration of what I'm talking about. So here's a challenge for you, and then we're going to address whatever questions you might have. Think about 3 words that you would like for the people in your life to use to describe you at the end of next year. Let's say that. I mean, you could talk about that by the end of today. I mean, this could be it could be a daily goal to have 3 ways of being. But let's just, because we're talking about goal setting, let's just focus on next year, for example. So if your goal is around your family, and you want your family to say that you're loving and generous, or that you're organized, imagine what that would look like in their lives. Perhaps there's been a time when you felt loving. So what kind of things did you do? What did you say? How did you spend your time? When you're organized, what does that look like? Are you preparing? Are you taking the initiative in preparing trips? Are the way you pack the lunches, the way you keep your home clean? I mean, it literally could look like anything. So if you have a picture in your mind of what it looks like, these are the behaviors or the actions that you might begin to take that align with that way of being. If you have felt, I really admire this other person and they seem to be really bold and they take initiative and they're very driven or direct, perhaps you can take a page out of their book and see what behaviors do they demonstrate that really resonate with you. And the idea is to really challenge yourself to look at what other people might be needing in the environment and where you might find yourself really providing that, meeting that need, right? Meeting that need by who you're being, not necessarily just what you're doing. What you're doing will be an outcome of who you're being, and therefore really focus on the process. And the last thing I will also say as an activity is, right, if you like to write, if you like to journal, to write yourself a letter. But write a letter from the future. This is from the book, The Art of Possibility. And in the book, they describe an exercise that was done with a class of college students where they wrote a letter giving themselves an A at the end of the semester. And what they did in order to earn the A, who they were being, what kind of, their study habits, how many hours of practice, or what they did during that semester to earn the A. So I invite you to do the same thing. Look at us, next year, and write yourself a letter from the future dated, let's say dated today, December 11th, where you say, this is how I became more courageous, or this is how I became more driven, or this is how I became more loving. And I did these things, or I said these things, or I took these opportunities, or traveled to these places. Like, really create it as that act of imagination, and basically writing your vision on paper. Seal it up. You might have a friend hold it for you and mail it back to you at the end of the year, or you might want to keep it someplace safe and then make a point to check in with it at the end of the year. Be very mindful about what opportunities you have to declare who you want to be, and allow that to determine how you set your goals. So I've said a lot. There's been a lot of information, maybe some new ways of looking at goal setting or who you get to be in the future. And I'm going to now pause and unmute the lines. If you have some thoughts about it or questions, I'd love for you to ask those thoughts or questions. And if you have something else that came to you, please feel free to share that too. All right. I'm going to unmute. If you're not speaking and you're doing something that might be distracting for others, feel free to mute yourself. If not, the lines are open. I'd love to hear your thoughts around what I shared today.
Hey, Valerie, it's Johanna. Thank you so much for sharing. You definitely got my mind thinking this morning for sure. I think probably I know that I've definitely identified that I need to be a better listener this year with some of the leadership training that I've taken. I definitely am a person to make decisions and keep moving very quickly. I think it has a lot to do with my role in the company and just the simple fact that I'm the only one that does it. So I don't have a lot of time to sit and think about, a ton of options, because it's just the speed of my job that I think that, I probably have done myself a disservice by not really taking time to think about some different options. And so I think I need to just take some time to be more strategic about choices and be a better listener and all of those things to maybe declutter my mind a little bit. But so it's definitely a goal going forward. I think where I'm struggling at this point in my career is and we talked about this a little bit in that ASE class, I think because of, several variables, I've always kind of said yes. I've always been a yes person. Hey, Johanna, can you do this? Yes. Will you take on this project? Yes. I just never said no. And so I don't really know how to say no. And because of that, I have so many things kind of juggling around, and I want to be everything to everyone, I feel like. And so with that, I don't know that I think I'm just, I'm having a hard time saying no. B, I think I need to just figure out what I should do and be really great at versus trying to be everything to everyone, if that makes sense, or be better at delegating or, that kind of thing. And so I don't know how to make that a goal. Because I think I worry about, different things. And I think, there's all kinds of things that come up in my head about it, but is that a normal thing, or I don't know. It's just one of those things that I've definitely been struggling with here within the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that, Johanna. Well, Well, you said, is that a normal thing? I'm going to pause a moment and ask the others who are listening, has anyone experienced that? Just say a quick yes, or in the chat, just put in yes if you have.
Yes.
Cool. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yeah. Joanna, you're not alone. You have at least a couple of people, at least today, who acknowledge that.
All right. Good company. All right. Awesome.
And you're in good company. You're in good company. So you said a few things. I just want to make sure that we focus and address the thing that you find would be most useful for you today. You mentioned that you have goals, that you want to be more strategic, that you want to be a better listener, right? And then you also mentioned there's a lot of things that you say yes to, so that seem to clutter your mind a lot, so you haven't been able to take the time or the space to get clear on what it is, who it is that you want to be. And rather than being everything to everybody, really getting clear for yourself. So I heard all of those. Out of everything that you said, what would provide the biggest support for you right now? Would it be about how to create more space and time for yourself to be strategic or a listener? Is it how to say no, or to really focus more on yourself? Like, what would you like for us to focus on right now?
I think it's all tied together. Like I'm so blessed, and I think that that's probably, maybe it's where we met in that OSCE class, probably makes this a little bit unique in that, I'm in this leadership class for, Hispanic women, in our company. And I think that being a minority in this large company too is a variable, right? And so having this role and being a leader and being a mentor, and, I want to do so many things. I don't want to let anybody down. And so when someone asks me to do something, it's very difficult to say no, because there's a fear of not being asked again. There's a fear of, so many different things that I think it's all combined. It's all lumped into the same bucket. So I think, if I could say no, I would have more time. If I could, it's so many things all combined in one. And I too, the nature of what I do often is, tied to my being a veteran and my having this unique perspective and this unique skill set that I know I'm a unicorn in this role. So there too, there's not a lot of options. And so, there's just a lot of things that are tied to it. And, there's, somebody's calling from Korea because their pay is not right. Well, I don't do payroll, but I'm not going to let this person just, not have their pay right or whatever. So, it's not like I can say no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I am, I'm in this unique position, but I don't want to not be there for this community because it means so much to me. And, with that said, again, being Hispanic and in this great position, I think makes it sort of a double whammy. So
okay.
I don't know. I'm just struggling with so many different things, and it makes me feel like I'm being inadequate all over the place just because I can't catch up. It's like I'm barely hanging on, barely above water. And so, it's just, it's very confusing for me.
Yeah, and I can imagine not only confusing, but feeling inadequate, always, that kind of keeps you in survival mode, right?
Yes,
like
that's a great word.
And it's, we can't access the most creative, the most audacious, the most alive parts of our brain when we're in survival mode. It doesn't work. And you said something earlier. I want to bring that word back up. I think that might be where we need to explore. If you allow me. You mentioned fear. You mentioned that you're afraid of not being asked again, right? Or fear of what people might think if you were to say no. Talk to me about about that fear. Where does it come from?
Probably, I think probably I'm probably the first in my family to ever really be in this position. And you know, we talked about this when you were in that class. You know, I don't have you know, somebody very close to me that I can go to for, you know, how do you do this and how do you manage even your professional career in this space. I'm kind of, you know, teaching myself or going to mentors that I've, you know, sort of met along the way. But in terms of my inner circle and like my family and that kind of thing, it doesn't exist. So I don't, you know, I'm so fearful of messing up. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of maybe pressure I even put on myself because I don't want to fail. And, you know, I don't want to fail my son. I don't want to fail myself. I don't want to, you know, all of that. You know, I'm sure it's self-inflicted for sure, but, you know, it's probably me.
Okay.
More than any person.
Got it. Well, you're the one that's speaking, so I would imagine that right now it feels like it's on you. Now, just to honor those that are listening, I want you all to listen look at where you are in the scope of what Johanna's saying. You may not have a situation, may not be the one struggling with saying no to others, but I think everyone could probably tie back to that fear of making a mistake, fear of messing up, like she said, or failing. Right. So just to take a moment to acknowledge what she said, say yes or type yes in the chat if you can see where you might be fearful of doing something. You might be fearful of failing or fearful of messing up. Yes in the chat or yes out loud?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't even get a yes, it's an absolutely. So you're definitely not alone in that either, Johanna. Here's what I will say is I want you to start thinking about what does it mean to fail for you. Let's really define that. What would failure mean to you?
I don't know that there's one thing. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, for me, probably here, there's, you know, everything is tied to a metric for sure, but, and I don't even know that it's that. I think it's success, the way that I probably quantify success, and that measurement is probably innate, like it's probably within me. So, you know, is it, you know, sort of an attaboy, which I'm not even that kind of person. I don't look for them and I don't certainly need them. Maybe just not, you know, getting the, hey, we need to meet. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't ever get in trouble or anything, but I think, I don't.
Let me just pause you for a second, Johanna. So I want you just to take a look when you think of messing up, when you think of failure, it obviously impacts you in such a way that you don't want to say no when you're asked to do something. But I want you to really look at what does failure mean? What does that mean about who you are? Just look.
I guess maybe the disappointment. I guess disappointing someone, and that it would. I mean, if I really had to think about it, it would probably be more disappointing myself. But I don't, you know, if it's a promotion or that kind of thing, you know, I don't even know that it's closely aligned to that. You know, being raised in a very, you know, coming from humble beginnings, you know, was always like, you know, just don't, you know, like don't get in trouble, you know, be on time, and, you know, that kind of thing. That I guess for me, it's, you know, sort of stay out of the principal's office, you know, and that's kind of where I just like, oh, don't, you know, don't call me into your office kind of thing. And that's probably it, but I don't ever get in trouble or anything like that. It's just, I don't even know what the fear is. I have no clue. I think it's probably, if anything, it's more letting somebody down.
And what would it mean about you if you let somebody down? I don't like to let anybody down. I mean, I guess because if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I would rather sacrifice me to fulfill that commitment. I get that. So, all right, just take a moment. Take a deep breath for me, Johanna. Everybody on the line that's listening, just take a deep breath. You know, there's probably a little bit of tension in there in the body someplace. All right. I want you to just take a moment and just look. You have had this as an automatic of responding for many years, like you said. I want you to think about, where does it come from? I know part of coaching is thinking about strategies for the future, but often you have to create a clearing, right? You have to kind of remove any obstacles or barriers before you can really build something solid. So I just want to invite you to look at, where does it come from, this idea that that you'd be letting somebody down?
I don't know. I'm sure I manifest it. I mean, I guess, I don't know. No one's ever said anything. It must be that.
Was there some event or something that happened where you realize, okay, I can't let somebody down?
No, but so many people have let me down, I guess.
Wait, say that again?
I said people have let me down, so I guess that's probably more than anything. And I don't want to be that person.
People have let you.
You know what I'm saying? Sure.
Okay. And when you think about what's the impact of that, of being let down, describe the impact.
I mean, it's a variable of trust. And for me, it's about character. And I try to pride myself on that. But now it's just like out of hand. I mean, there's, 7,000 people on my LinkedIn profile, like it's crazy. There's so many people. And I Scout's honor, like I wish I could handhold, everyone that is transitioning and I wish I could help them, but I literally can't. I mean, I have to sleep sometimes. So, it's that kind of thing. I wish I could be everything to people, but I can't, and I know I can't, and it's at the cost of my son, and I want to be a mom too, and all those kinds of things. So, at this point, it's it's like, oh my gosh, do I transition out of this role and go into something else and let somebody else, maybe they can do it better, and I'm just, at this crossroads.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever felt this way before, or is it very normal, like to just come to this point that X amount of time in a certain role?
Yeah.
Maybe it is very normal. I don't know.
Well, consider that. I always point to my clients. I always point to, any time that you feel some discomfort, it's a sign to pay attention to that discomfort. And it sounds like if you've never felt this way before, or starting to feel it more consistently, now it's a lot more, you can't rest or sleep, or it's something that comes up a lot. You might consider that it's giving you information. And information doesn't necessarily mean abort, right? It might be,
right.
Okay, there's an opportunity for you to evolve. Right? The strategies that you used in the past are not going to serve the goals that you create in the future.
Right.
The strategy served for a moment, right? Being able to say yes served you for a moment. And I thought it was funny, you said, you want to be all you can be. I thought you were a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't be all you can be?
I am a Marine. Yeah, I'm like, Did I say that? Because don't ever repeat that. Oh my
I
God.
will never repeat it.
Don't make this worse for me.
But I get what you're saying. What
Yeah.
I want to invite you to look at, though, is that the strategy of saying yes to some things because you don't want to disappoint others, or you don't want to lose their trust, or you don't want to fail, is a strategy that served you at some point in your life. Now, you may or may not want to look at that or able to look at that right now. You know, I get it. This is in a public forum. Perhaps right now is not the best time to spend the time. But I would invite you to really start looking at what point in your life did you decide, okay, and I want this for everybody. We decided what the strategy was going to be. Right? We made a decision at some point because something happened that this is the way that we're going to overcome, that we're going to deal with, that we're going to manage this particular type of issue. And we use that strategy, right, as a survival mechanism, because as human beings, we are built to survive. Right? We have, every tool and resource necessary and mental capacity to ensure survival. So you use this strategy, Johanna, to survive something at a certain point in time. And I assert that what you're experiencing now, that discomfort, that type of that readiness to either look at some other opportunities or to just like, I want those 7,000 people who are asking for me to help them to just go away, right? I would invite you to look at that as an opportunity to see that your strategy is no longer going to serve who you're going to be in the future. Okay? But the way the strategy has been in place for so long and is likely so automatic that it's now becoming a little challenging to get a new strategy. Kind of have to figure out, okay, where's that old strategy coming from? And make a decision about whether it serves you anymore in any capacity, put it to the side, and then you can start thinking about building a new one. So I just want to invite you to look at, and I'm gonna leave you just with this thought. So take one other caller to chat through and see what they're thinking about this topic. I want you to think about, Johanna, where did that strategy of avoiding disappointing people come from? I will also say, for those of us who are women, we are more often than not built to, right, mentally built to want to please others. It's part of our biology. Now, we learn some other strategies to cope depending on how we live life, but there's an instinct for most of us women that we want to please. We want to please our mates. We want to please our families. We want to please our friends. Right? So sometimes there's a drive to please it. We are compelled to please. The challenge is when it's so automatic and we're living from that instinct, we often aren't able to access the higher part of ourselves, which is not based on instinct. There's like a distinction between the human instinct and the human spirit. The human spirit being like the higher part of ourselves, the more the part of ourselves that's more logical, that's more creative, that's more open, expansive. That is in counter to the instinct that is we're wired for survival. So what I want you to look at in the next few days or hours, whatever you want to devote to this, between now and next week at least when we have our next call, is where did that strategy come from? And then take a look at how it served you, because you want to honor it. It was there for a reason. This is not something crazy that just, I'm just going to decide to be this way. It served a purpose. Find out what that purpose was and see whether or not that strategy is serving you in the moment. You can already tell that it isn't because of what you're saying, but I want you to get clear on that. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. And I think that it has a lot to do with the leadership and the training that I've gotten this year, that it's really kind of just opened my mind into different ways of thinking. And so I think that's a lot of it. So, which is a great thing.
It's a great thing. When we're called to evolve as a human,
Yeah.
we're called to evolve. You're going to start to notice dissonance. There's going to be things that just don't fit anymore. Like, oh my gosh, I can't do this and be that. And that's that's not what you're experiencing. But just pay attention. Like I ask everyone else that's listening, just pay attention to that and get clear on what the strategy was, why you came up with it. So then you can decide whether or not it serves any part of that strategy serves you. Okay. And I want you to follow up with me, Johanna. So shoot me an email or give me a call or join us next week for our next call. I want to hear what you discover. Will you do that?
Okay. For sure.
Cool. We have about 5 more minutes, but I'd love to hear from the others in the call what you got out of or what you realized because of what Johanna shared, which, by the way, thank you, Johanna, for being so open and generous with us. Thank you.
You bet.
I'd love to hear from someone that was listening what you thought about what she said, if there's anything you want to share around that for yourself or something that you found interesting.
Hey, Valerie, this is Julie.
Hey, Julie.
Hey, listening to all of that, it just made me really think about my own personal situation and some of the similar struggles that I'm facing, which is kind of, for my own self, it's really keeping up appearances. And I've had a hard time with that lately just because there was one version of myself before child and now there's another version of myself and it's very different. And I worked for an organization for about 13 years and really loved what I did and felt very accomplished and very goal driven. And then after child, everything kind of feels chaotic. and so it's difficult because I feel like I don't want to let people down in the sense of trying to be not perfect, because that's definitely not something that's not a word that I've really strived for or anything like that, but just put together and dealing with things in a way that doesn't look like I've lost control of everything, which is in some situations I feel like I have. There's there's a tiny person who's running my world now, and it's a challenge. So for me, it just listening to some of the struggles that Joanna is facing, it's really it resonated with me because it's really been about keeping up appearances, and is that what I need to focus on, or do I just need to really be honest with myself and try to deal with each situation as it comes? Because before I was accomplishing different projects and really succeeding in different areas, and these days I feel like it's harder to come by those wins and really feel like like there's things that I can say, yes, we did this, or I did this, I accomplished this. So that's kind of what that made me think of.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Julie. Yeah, it's interesting because kind of what Johanna's experiencing now that she's evolving as a leader, right? You kind of explained, you shared that you've evolved, pre-motherhood and now post-motherhood, not post-motherhood, but as you're now, you'll never not be a mother now. You know this, right?
True. Yeah, I'm aware.
You can't be aware. Now that you have this experience, some of your values may have shifted. There's a gentleman that if you haven't heard of, I think this might be helpful for some of you. His name is John DeMartini, and he's also a speaker and an author and conducts all sorts of different breakthrough transformational workshops. And he has a website where he puts a quiz. I guess you'd call it a quiz, but he calls it a value determinator. And in that particular website, he asks for people to look at how how you spend your time, how you spend your money, who you spend time with, right? To really examine all these different areas of your life. Johanna, similar to one of the exercises that we did that I facilitated for you guys in the leadership course. And you essentially start to look at all these different areas of your life, because our activities could also show us what we most value in the moment. And when we are aligned with the values that we have, we tend to see there's a sense of aliveness, there's a sense of purpose, there's a sense of meaning that comes from activity that's aligned to our value. What I think Julie and Johanna, I think the thing that the two of you described is that you're finding that there are activities that you might be doing, things that you might be spending time on that don't align with your values. And that's likely a source of dissonance, right? The source of friction. That's something to explore. If you're interested in that quiz or that activity, send me an email at valerie@valeriehope.com, and I'll send you the link for it so that you can look at it. I think that there's an opportunity to really explore what we value. Again, kind of starting from going back to where I started, is who we want to be. Once you get really clear on who you want to be, and that begins to drive you, the opportunity to be distracted or dissuaded by who other people need you to be is going to be a little bit more difficult, because when you get really clear about who you want to be in life. And sometimes it's a matter of just decluttering a little bit of all these things that you thought you should be. Going back to my talk last week. So we've hit the 9:45. So I want to honor that we said that we'd have an hour call. I want to honor that time. I do have a few extra minutes, and I'm willing to stay on for anyone that has any additional comments or questions. But I do want to acknowledge, thank you all so very much, those of you that have to jump off. Acknowledge you all for being here today and for sharing and listening. And I hope you all got something out of it. I'd love your feedback. This is something that I've just started. Who I want to be this year is open and bold and focused. And who I really wanting to be in these conversations is the person that can inspire and activate others to take action to live the life they love. That's really my goal here. So any feedback that you have, that what worked, what didn't work, what you liked, what you learned, what could be better, I would highly appreciate. Again, you can send your feedback to Valerie@valeriehope.com, and take that into consideration as we move into the next phase of this. But like I said, I'll be on the call for a little longer. If anyone has to jump off, please feel free to do so. All right.
Thanks. Thank you, Val. I appreciate it. I'll send you an email back, so I got to jump off because I've got 10.
Great. Yes, follow up and let me know how everything turned out, okay? And if we need to have more conversation, let's do that. I'll see you at the graduation on Wednesday, by the way, Johanna.
Okay, awesome. I'll talk to you then.
Great.
All right,
thanks. Bye.
Awesome job, Valerie.
Who's this?
Jerry Diane.
Diane?
No, it's Jerry.
Jerry?
Don't you recognize the wang?
I'm like, Jerry Diane.
That's what they call me
Jerry
in the office.
Oh, thanks for joining.
You're ever so welcome. So do you really know who it is?
I guess I know who it is. Jerry, Dennis, Jenner, my tennis Jerry.
Yes, correctamundo.
Very good.
Awesome job.
Thank you. What did you get out of the call today, Jerry?
Well, I feel like Johanna and I have a lot in common.
I'd be glad to hear that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. I didn't get to join until basically you were done, I guess, with the first part of the call. So I didn't capture the last few minutes. But I thought it was really good. And those are things that I'm always continually working on. Yeah. And so it was nice to know that there are other people out there with the same issue.
There's
was very helpful.
And we all go through ups and downs, right? Sometimes we're super clear, and other times we're like, what's happening?
That's right.
is not to panic and just pay attention.
That's exactly right. Well, okay. Well, I'm going to drop. Are you coming on Saturday?
Yes, to tennis on Saturdays.
Very,
I'll see you then.
okay, very good. Well, thanks everyone so
much. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Valerie. This is Miriam.
Miriam, hi. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm using his iPad.
Great. What did you get out of it, Miriam?
So I missed the beginning, and I also have class during this time too, for 30 minutes. So I leave and I come back. So I was going back and forth. So I was done with my class, and but I missed the beginning. But I'm definitely, I mean, the parts. I'm definitely where, was it Julie who was talking about her baby?
Yes, yes.
That's where I am, life is a lot different now, and priorities, prioritizing. So a lot has changed for me. So you talked about listening today?
About listening?
Is that what the topic was in the beginning?
No, the topic, we talked about how to set goals from a place of who we want to be as opposed to the stuff we want to do.
Okay.
For example,
right.
Yeah, it's like, for example, if you decided, okay, well, you tell me, when you think about motherhood, right? Who do you want to be as a mother? Like, who would you want Sophia to know you as a mother? Like, if you had to say 3 words to describe that, what would they be?
For her to know me as a mother?
Yeah, like, well, if she was to, let's say she could speak now, but if she could articulate 3 words that you would love for her to say about you being a mother, what are the 3 words that you'd love for her to say?
Oh, Sophia's gonna be like, my mother is a great Muslimah, and she has this balance between her faith and her life, as in the daily activities. And
all right, so balanced is 1 word. What's another word?
So balance, I don't know what would be the word for that, but could I use like what you were talking about, like, aligning, like living my life, like what you were saying about, like, are your activities aligned with what you, are your activities aligned with what you really love,
like your values?
Your values, do they align with your values? And
so she would say that my mom is balanced, my mom's living a life that's aligned with value?
Yes.
What else would she say? 1 more.
Oh, what else? She's my role model. I want to be just like my mommy.
What word would she use that she wants to role model? Like what?
That like my mother, if she wants to do something, she really goes after it and she gets it done.
Okay, so was that something like driven or?
Yes, driven. Yes.
Driven. Okay. All right. So your 3 words you said, or your 3 elements are balance. Sophia, you'd love for Sophia to say, oh, my mom is balanced. My mom lives according to her values, and she's driven. So what type of things would you be able to do to demonstrate that to her? Let's just talk about today.
Right.
So today, between now and the rest of your day, what are some ways that you can show that you're balanced? You can show her your balance.
So I see balance as balancing, I would say, what we call deen and dunya. So balance to me, or what I will do today, making sure that I do my 5 daily prayers. And I also that I take care of Sophia, and I am taking care of everything else around the house. And I also make sure that I give myself time to do the projects that I am working on right now.
Okay.
So that would be like about.
So you mentioned the 5 prayers as very actionable, right? So it's one thing,
Yes.
balance, and in order to be balanced, I know I have to do my 5 prayers. When you
Yes.
then take care of Sophia, so can you be more specific? Like, what would be the balanced thing to do when you take care of her? What would that look like?
Taking care of Sophia would be, of course, like, keeping her clean, giving her massages, making sure that I read her. I try to read her 3 books a day. She has a schedule, so I made the schedule and I try to go by that. Like, her nap time, her so her reading, her nap time, keeping her nice and clean, feeding her, taking her out to the park. So those are the things I do for Sophia.
And are those the things that show that you're balanced?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So good. So you have all these different activities. You take her to the park, right? You have these things that you do with her that give you balance and then allow you to support and take care of her. Yeah.
Right.
When you think about, let's jump to driven. You said driven would be one of those words that you'd like for her to say about you. How could you show Sophia that you're driven today?
So today, like I've been wanting to do this, and I'm working on it. I started it. I'm doing my presentation. I have this project that I've been working on for my students, my dental hygiene students, and I need to put that together and present it. And so I was actually working on that this morning, and so getting that done.
Okay, good. So you complete your project, and that would be, you need to be driven in order to make that a priority for today.
Right.
Yeah. And then, okay, the last one you mentioned was aligned with your values. You'd like for her to see that you live the values. So what would that look like today?
So my values, what would that, so it would go back to my 5 daily prayers and my really close connection with my creator. That would show her that I want her to see that. And that's that's most valuable to me. And I want her to see that in me. And I want her to take that from me. And, I want her to have that too.
Good. Great.
Yeah.
That's so when I was talking earlier, I was pointing to when we set goals, rather, and you could set a goal today of, okay, I need to finish my project. I need to, take Sophia to the park. I need to do my 5 daily prayers. You could say that. That's perfectly valid. And you also see that if you set your intention to, okay, goals today, be balanced, make sure I'm aligned with my values, and be driven. How much more would you do just to be that way? You follow so far?
How much more? I don't understand this part. How much more would I do to?
Yeah, imagine. I should say, imagine being driven. You say be driven is one of the words, and you pointed to doing this project, right? Completing that project and getting your presentation ready today. But when you say being driven, that could be, you know what, I'm going to be driven today. So yes, I'm working on my presentation, and I do need to go to the store and get this particular item because I've been talking about it for the last week. I'm going to go do that today. You see, the act of being driven and that be a goal will give you access to a lot more actions that align with being driven.
Right.
Not just one project.
Okay.
Yeah. Being balanced and saying, today my goal is to be balanced will give you access to not only doing your prayer, but also making sure that you're spending time outdoors. It might give you, you know what, I haven't eaten the kind of foods that I know bring me balance. So let me cook something, or let me prepare something, or let me fast, or whatever the right thing for your balance would be.
Right.
You follow?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that was basically the first part of the talk today was how do we think from the place of who we're being and allow that to determine our action.
Hmm.
For example, if I say today I'm being generous.
Hmm.
Did say, by the way, it was when I did my meditation in the morning, I spent some time thinking about, okay, who do I want to be today? Like what
Right.
qualities and characteristics do I want to demonstrate today? And one of them was being generous. For me, that means I'm going to stay a few minutes after the call and open that up. That wasn't, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know people were going to stay. It was just like, oh, let me be generous with my time.
Hmm.
Right? But so that word called me to do something that demonstrated it.
Hmm. I see.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
You know, I like that too. Like after I do my morning prayer,
mhm.
uh, um, I have this habit, like thinking about, okay, setting intentions in the morning
Mhm.
for like, what is it that I'm going to do today? Um, and so do you do that every day?
That's the goal. So yeah, I I meditate every day, nearly every day. I did miss a couple days last week.
Hmm.
And part of my meditation, the last 5 minutes is, for me personally, is prayer. And sometimes it's just prayer for the people in my family, the people that I'm going to impact. And I generally also look at, okay, who do I want to be today? Like there's
Hmm.
my little trigger for it is that I use an app called Insight Timer. And
Okay.
timer you can set for different lengths of meditation. They even have guided meditation, but I don't have a guided meditation. I just set up how much time I want to meditate. So for example, this morning I did 30 minutes. But the way that it signals that the meditation has come to an end is by three gongs. So it goes boom, boom, boom. So when I hear the gongs, that's my prompt for, oh, what are my 3 words for the day?
Hmm.
That again is just I needed to find a way that it wasn't just so arbitrary because I wake up and I need to go do something or get ready for a meeting. Sometimes I forget, but if I know when I have that moment of stillness, I can, okay, these are my 3 words for today. Open, I believe today was open, curious, and generous. Open, focused, and generous.
Okay.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you for giving me this time. For
Oh my
these.
gosh, thank you so much for coming. Yay. I'm actually going to pause the recording here.